recording now. So we get started. All right, thanks guys for joining us. My name is Steve Collins. I am a partner at the Palomar Group. We are an investment sales company based in Augusta, Georgia that works across the Southeast. And we've started a new series called the Palomar Perspectives with people in the industry to get their take on where we are right now and how they're getting through these challenging times, and how we can all work together to help everybody get through this, because we're all in this together. And so I want to thank our three guests today. We have Jeremy Rosenthall with M&P Shopping Centers. He's the managing director there, and it's a family office that owns multi-tenant retail assets across the Southeast. And Jeremy's been with M&P since 2008. Also with us is Lance Hagaman with Hendon Properties, a developer and operator out of Atlanta. Lance has been with Hendon since 2017. And before that, he was a regional VP of leasing with Brixmor. And also joining us is Christian Chamblee from with Ziff Properties. He's the COO and Director of Acquisitions there, based in Charleston. Ziff owns and operates shopping centers as well as self-storage facilities and light industrial and flex assets across the country. So thank you guys for joining us today. We appreciate it. And we'll get right in and just kind of start things off. A little bit of background on the relationship I have with these three gentlemen. Christian and Lance, back when I started in real estate in commercial real estate in 2006, Christian and Lance were probably two of the, they were working together at the time. They were probably two of the first people I met in the industry. My partner, Ryan McCardle, was working in Knoxville, Tennessee on some developments up there. And Christian and Lance were working on a development up in Knoxville as well. And so Ryan got to know those two, and through Ryan I got to know him. And actually after we made the transition from doing development work to investment sales, Christian and Ziff were actually the ones that bought the first shopping center that we ever sold. So thanks, Christian, appreciate that one. And,
yeah, no problem.
Yeah, and
no problem.
Yeah, it was good. That was a good deal. That deal ended up working out well for you. And then
yeah, that one did okay.
Yeah. And then I met Jeremy a few years ago through at Lance's golf tournament that he hosts every year in Atlanta, that hopefully will be taking place again this summer. Keep our fingers crossed. And Christian and Lance knew Jeremy, and so got to know Jeremy through that. And since then, it's just been these are three of the best guys in the industry. They're good at what they do, and are great people and great friends as well. So thank you all for joining us today. I'd like if we could just to start off, and we'll start with Jeremy. Jeremy, can you just give us a little background on you and just kind of your career progression since you got into the industry?
Absolutely. So I started in the real estate business back in 2004, 2005. I was an industrial tenant rep for a local Atlanta company. Worked there for about 4 years, and then came over to M&P Shopping Center, where I started off as a leasing agent, and from there, over the next couple of years, worked my way up. And in 2014, my partner and I took over the day-to-day business and operations of M&P over here. Right now, we own 27 shopping centers throughout the Southeast. We manage, operate, we do kind of everything in-house from our offices here in Atlanta.
Lance, how about you?
So I started out working on new development projects in the Southeast with Christian Chamblee. It was at the time defined as neo-urbanism, but basically suburban mixed-use town centers. Did that for a couple years, and then an opportunity to Atlanta came along. Joined a publicly traded company at the time. It was called New Plan. After 3 days, a long stint with that company, It was bought at the peak of the market by an Australian REIT, Ziff Properties Group. And then Centro Group, based on their stock performance on the Australian exchange and the subscription from superannuation, which is basically, it's Australian forced retirement. You're required to invest in the market, but you get to elect on where you want to invest your retirement funds or your steady withdrawal. And thereafter, the valuation of that company decreased pretty substantially with the financial crisis. And the 588 U.S. assets were purchased at about $9.4 billion, $9.4 billion valuation, and the privatization of the company allowed us to clean up the portfolio, including the acquisition dispositions of 717 properties to achieve metrics that were deemed valuable in the market at that time. This included a reduction to 522 assets. It was 86.6 square feet, 70% exactly was the grocery anchored portfolio, 63% on the top 50 MSAs, average grocery sales of almost $500 a square foot, and 73% of the portfolio contained either the number one or the number two grocer in that market. And this was kind of prepared the organization for an IPO that was led by some of the bigger banks, Wells Fargo, BofA Merrill Lynch, JP Morgan, and Citigroup, bringing out the offering. And the branding to the current day REIT that everybody knows as Brixmor Property Group, responsible for approximately $1 billion worth of assets in the Southeast, spread over about 60 properties. And then thereafter, an opportunity arose to work with Hendon Properties as their COO. So since my arrival at Hendon in May of 2017, we've kind of ramped up our leasing activity and resources for that portion, which is kind of my expertise. We've disposed of only one asset and acquired two, but we do expect a lot of forthcoming opportunity in the market.
Thanks, Lance. All right, Christian?
Yeah, I've been lucky enough to spend a career here in Charleston, working both regionally and nationally, which is somewhat rare for the market here. I work all over the country right now, and oftentimes know much more about what's going on in the world in a market like Indianapolis than I do right here in my own backyard of Charleston, but I consider that to be a blessing. I've been working in real estate really since 2002. It was a little bit more conservation minded when I first started, was working unlimited with an attorney putting conservation easements on large tracts of land throughout the South Carolina Low Country and surrounding states. I then went from there to my first stint at Ziff Properties, where I was a leasing associate and acquisitions associate at two different times, and was there for about 2 or 3 years and decided that, like everybody else in the heyday, I needed to go be a developer. So I went to work with Lance at the James Dorr Company, and was doing leasing on new development projects around the Southeast, Publix anchored shopping centers, town center projects, that kind of thing. Then in 2009, when everything went bad, somebody walks in my office and told me I was going to become a low-income housing tax credit developer. So in the morning I was in shopping centers, in the afternoon I was in tax credit development. The nonprofit side of the James Dorr Company's business developed low-income housing tax credit properties with 9% tax credits in South Carolina, Virginia, Tennessee, Louisiana, around the Southeast. So was there, really did not enjoy the tax credit business. And so when the thaw of the 2008-9 recession started to happen, I came back over to Ziff Properties and joined as the director of acquisitions. And here since, so I guess would be about 9 years. It would be 9 years this month. Been back over here, and we've bought about 60 assets since I've been back over the last 9 years. And focus on it right now. We focus on a deal size of about $5 to $15 million. And like you said, we're in the self-storage, light industrial, and retail space. properties, about $350 million in value, about 50 assets currently, with an eye towards growth, and probably will be, for the first time in our company's history, taking in some outside capital here shortly. We've always been a family-owned, family-injected company, which we intend to grow. And this, what's going on in the market right now may be a catalyst for that.
Nice, thank you. Speaking of what's going on in the market right now, obviously some interesting times that we're in. I know all three of y'all do have a heavy presence in retail, and the shutdown that we've experienced had significant effects on the retail industry and on the shopping centers that you've operated or that you currently operate. What are y'all doing to address the issues that tenants have and also that your lenders have, and how are you working? How are you working with everybody right now as we come up on April 1st when rents are starting to become due? Let me start with Lance. You want to jump in first, and then anybody else, feel free to jump in whenever you want to.
Sure. So we are trying to get out ahead of this. There's really no consistency in the marketplace today. We're out ahead of it, demanding April rent from our tenants. So we've sent proactive letters to every tenant, letting them know our position is that we expect them to pay their rent in April. Most of the tenants have been open and operating in portions of March. And so we're mirroring the behavior of some other landlords like Taubman Centers. But having said that, there's other landlords out there that are proactively giving rent relief to a lot of the tenants. So there just hasn't been much consistency in the marketplace on how everybody is. But we're demanding payment from everybody because we have to. And the SBA loan or the CARES package has a tendency to put the onus on the tenant and the small business to pursue relief. And as part of that package, they expect their tenants to pay and their landlords. And so we're holding that position consistent with the legislation.
Good deal. Christian, how about you? How are y'all dealing with the situation right now?
Before I answer that, I'd just like to ask Lance, what percentage of your portfolio is national versus regional tenants? I mean, sorry, national versus
we're probably in the neighborhood of, we have some C malls, and so we've got a lot of exposure to mom and pop in those properties because of the recycling of those tenants. But we're probably in the neighborhood of about 50-50.
Okay. Yeah, we've taken a similar line thus far and have been as proactive as you in demanding, as Lance has in demanding rents. We have not done anything yet to defer rents. We likely will, offer some rent deferral. Along with that deferral, that's not forgiveness, that's deferral. And along with that, the tenants will be mandated to submit with their application for deferral the paperwork for the payment Protection Act or plan, and the I can't remember the both of the measures through the CARES Act that are set up to protect tenants.
The disaster line and then the payroll.
Yeah, sorry, those.
Yeah.
Too.
Yeah.
And we've set up the letter. We're ready to send it, but right now we've got rents coming in, tenant rents continuing to come in, and we don't want to, or starting to come in really for April, and we don't want to set anybody. We don't want to set a precedent that we're not taking that until we kind of see how the collections go over the next several days.
Good deal. All right, how about you, Jeremy?
So we've taken a little different approach in a sense that we sent a letter out to, we probably have about 300, 320 tenants, and we're probably more heavily on the mom and pop, probably 70, 75% mom and pop tenants. So we've sent a letter out to about 75, 80 tenants that I have spoken to were emailed with over the last 2 weeks. So we sent a letter out this morning kind of saying, we expect you to pay April's rent. However, we understand the current situation. Kind of in essence, pay what you can. At a bare minimum, we want to get your CAM taxes insurance paid. And we're going to work in the future on a deferral. So again, we're not giving rent relief. We're not waiving the rent, but we're going to defer that. And we're going to defer that decision on how that's going to come down in the future. And a lot of that just kind of depends on how long we're here, kind of in this situation. I hate to be making statements to my tenants that then I'm going to have to change again in another 30, 60, 90 days. So we're kind of pushing it out there. Some tenants are paying April's rent. I think we're going to have a bigger hit come May than in April because, as everybody else alluded to, tenants were open for a majority of March. It was just towards the tail end of March where some tenants were completely shut down and not able to open at all, versus some that were kind of adjusting their hours during March as well. So, but that was kind of how we handled. And from a national standpoint, I'm kind of just letting those letters kind of sit there right now and not addressing them.
Yeah, and I'd like to say I'm glad we were not to say we weren't proactive, but that we didn't jump the gun on anything, because I know several landlords that were sending out letters ahead of a lot of this CARES Act stuff coming out, and as much benefit of knowing what's going on. So I feel like everything's changing so fast. It's with the passing of time, we're learning more and more.
I completely agree with you, and that's why Christian, we took that kind of approach, is because I feel like every day something new's coming. I was reading this morning, they're talking about a fourth stimulus package and how that comes out, and what that does for our tenants as well. And I think that telling some of these tenants that we're going to give you 90 days of free rent, I feel like it's a disadvantage that we're all going to do for ourselves in the future, because it could be 120 days. No one knows really right now.
Right.
Yeah, we've sent out that letter soliciting rent from all of our tenants. We've gotten some feedback, and we have conversations similar to what you've had, Jeremy, where we have said, hey, pay us the triple nets, pay us what you can, pay us what you've been open, and it's going to be looked upon favorably from the landlord's perspective, as you being a proactive tenant. And then separately, we've received a lot of solicitation from particularly national tenants, and we have two positions that we respond with, one of which is just we understand the environment, the impact this is having, and the challenges the tenant's facing, the landlord's facing them also. We're not willing to make any changes to the lease, and we won't agree to any rental abatements. But due to the fluidity of the situation, once things have settled, we look forward to having a productive conversation thereafter. You start to get some different reactions from that, and so we kind of have a position two, which, Steve, I know you and I have talked about this, but it requests a lot of paper from the tenants. We want to know, we want to complete a tenant affidavit of sales. We want to see their profit and loss statements for the previous 2 years, but also we want to see the subject period of their requested relief, so we can see day by day or week by week what their impact is, so we can take a measured approach. We do have that productive conversation and tell them that, okay, we see what happened to your sales, we see your impact, and then we may, to use Christian's word, defer some of your rent payment in a constructive manner.
How are you guys handling, I know you both of you mentioned you're going to be asking for tenants to fill out a package with information, P&Ls, all that stuff. What are you guys doing for your tenant that, your mom and pop tenant that, let's call it, has a shoe repair shop in 1,000 square feet? I mean, this is, I don't know what kind of P&Ls they actually have. And, they might be able to write down what their sales are, but you're not getting anything formal. What are you doing in that situation?
We are asking them to make some payment in addition to making some proposal on their behalf that includes a detriment to the tenant or some sort of good faith effort on their side. So as part of that package, we're saying we're not going to review it until April 20th at the earliest. And so that we bought ourselves some time so that we can digest what's going to happen in April. But in addition, we're not going to review the tenant's proposal if they paid nothing. I mean, if the rents, that guy rents $1,000 a month or something, give me $100. Just pay $100, and I'll review your package and your proposal, and then also in your proposal, something that you're going to give up. Is it a radius restriction? Is it a co-tenancy? Maybe not your shoe repair guy. Maybe it's just that he'll make it up by the end of the year, or he'll give you additional deposit or additional terms, something like that. But we're asking them to be creative and give us a proposal what they would give up in addition to keep paying something in the process.
So what I've heard, am I correct that the national tenants that have sent you letters, just we're not paying rent for, whatever, 90 days or whatever it is, y'all have not responded. Nobody's responding to those yet. Is that correct?
Yeah, we've responded.
Oh, you have responded to those?
Yeah.
Just with what you just detailed, that we're expecting you to pay rent?
Yeah, just position one, that we don't see this as an event of force majeure. For that reason, we're not saying we expect you to pay your rent. That's how we responded to the nationals.
Yeah. Okay.
But I would say that it is a little bit of a challenge in the national space because of their. I got to be delicate in but just kind of their lack of professionalism in this environment. Right. Some of them are being very opportunistic and just really just putting the screws to you. And there's rumors of several tenants that say, hey, they're going to send out letters that say that we're not going to pay for 9 months. And we don't know if that's, to Christian's point earlier, we don't know how long this is going to last or what it is. And them taking that ridiculous position is just kind of egregious, and it's a little bit uncomfortable versus the mom and pops. If you have these conversations, say, hey, pay what you can and we're going to work with you. They seem to be a lot more grateful and understanding of this, whereas some of the nationals have been a little bit, just some of them have been just kind of looking for conflict or looking for an opportunity to leverage the situation, which is kind of sad.
I've heard a lot of people describe it as that they just some of the national guys have just gone back to the 2008 playbook and just rent relief. I need it now, and not trying to be your partner in the shopping center. As far as moving forward, I know that nobody knows when we're going to come out of this situation. I think we're all hopeful that it's not, we're talking a month, maybe two, not 6 months. What are y'all anticipating the deal flow over the remainder of 2020 like, as far as leasing as well as the acquisitions and disposition side, and also where do you think there's going to be opportunity in that? Sorry, Jeremy, you want to jump on that one first?
Yeah, sure. I think I think from an acquisition disposition side, it's going to slow down, except for the groups that again have to, whether it's via 1031 or something like that. I know we have a couple of deals that we have under contract that have been pushed, 30 days, potentially 69. We know where those are at. And understanding that, I think a lot is going to have to be once these tenants come back, kind of forget about the rent that they missed paying during this time, but are they viable tenants moving forward? Can they pick up where they left off, and can they start kind of growing their business again? I think that's hard when you're coming in trying to buy a center and looking at whether it's a restaurant, a clothing store, or something to that effect, and not knowing if they're going to be there, and how do you – I think moving that on from a tenant side, I think you're going to have a number of tenants you're going to have to try to figure out, are they viable tenants anymore in your shopping center? Unfortunately, as I'm sure everybody has, you've got tenants that were in default before this came to play, and this is going to exacerbate that. And is that just now a time to say, it's time to let's go back and release that space and find somebody new? Our position as M&P is we've always tried to be the low-cost provider on the block. We operate, great shopping centers, but we're typically the low rent on the block, which I think puts us in a position when people are coming back out to find new spaces to lease where we've got opportunities for that.
Nice. How about you, Lance?
I'm excited. I think I have to be. We've got some runway left in our career, so I've got to feel like it's a good opportunity. I think that you've already seen over the past couple years, some challenges in the retail space in particular, and some of these larger funds, these institutional guys have allocated a smaller and smaller portion of their fund towards retail because of its lack of predictability and, of course, the Amazon effect that everyone's concerned. But I think you're going to see, as private investors or private operators, a lot more opportunity in the space. I think they're going to be accretive right out the gate, because I think you're going to see a cap rate shift that's going to favor a lot more, or less value for the seller, but a better value for the buyer. And we're just trying to anticipate these. We are not a pure play retail operator, so we think there's some opportunities to reposition some of these assets and some of these urban infill locations. And so if we can get them, if we can buy, we think there's a lot of value out there. There's a lot of heavy restrictions placed on these properties, and it kind of thins out our opportunities. And that could be, common area restrictions or no build areas or co-tenancies, and you just don't have the ability to flip an asset to its best use. And we're looking forward to just finding those opportunities. I think that, prudent landlords should get ahead of this as we're contemplating these rent relief or rent deferral programs, that we should be mindful of those. And any operator will do their best to carve out co-tenancies and no-build areas. And any of the use restrictions that you see in a shopping center, where you're restricted on the number of office that you can have in the shopping center, just some opportunities to peel that out, because we're seeing a lot of these uses kind of blend a little bit. You're seeing a lot more service and office type operators in a retail setting. But from a leasing perspective, I think there's going to be a huge shakeup. To Jeremy's point, some of the best practices from the retailers are going to be tested at this point, and what makes the best operators going forward. I'm more. I think we kind of get to this later, but I'm more interested in what happens to the consumer. What's their shift? Because this is forced, I would say, if I had to, the younger generations, like the millennials, are used to buying online, picking up in store. And now you have the whole Generation X and the baby boomers that haven't historically done that. And you're starting to see them learn how to adopt that. And what's going to happen to that consumer in the future? Are they going to get more comfortable buying online, pick up in store? Are we going to see dropping sales and retail? That'll further shift the allocation of retail and those funds to even smaller margin, which makes things creates a lot more opportunity. Because if you look back to 2008, 9, 10, the financial crisis, there was a big concern over office at that point. Everyone said, well, pay rent, why have all this GLA for your office guys? Because everybody can work from home. And we're seeing that same test again with Zoom. I think Zoom's up 40% over the past month. We're using it right now. And there was a big concern in office space that came back very strong, particularly in the Atlanta market, because of the economic growth. And I think that a lot of people don't have the foresight to see that's going to rebound, because we are a social being. And I think that retail and our experiences are going to, we're going to fall back to that, our natural nature. And I think that retail is going to be a lot more stable than some of these naysayers are predicting. So I think there's going to be a lot of opportunity for those that pounce early.
Yeah, I think a couple of things you said there, Lance, I think were pretty interesting. You talk about the shift. You talk about the shift in retail. I feel like, and what do y'all think? As far as everybody's going to be cooped up in their house for an undetermined amount of time, and I feel like, I see people walking in my neighborhood that I've never seen before in my life, and I've lived there for 9 years. So it's like everybody's wanting to get out, wanting to do things. Do you think it's the Amazon effect is going to continue on the same trajectory that it was, or do you think people are realizing that they like human interaction, and even if all they're going to do is sit and look on their phone, they want to do that around other people and be out and socializing with people. And same with the office. I wonder, like you said, we're a social being. I think, like we're doing a Zoom conference, but I think we would all much prefer to be, doing this in person on the golf course or at a restaurant or something. So I guess that gets kind of to the curve. Like, what do you think the curve of the rebound is? Do you think it's like that V shape, or do you think it's that more like a U that I've heard people talk? What do you think about that, Christian?
Well, I think contrary to what a lot of other people will say, and even some people I've heard in my shop say, I think the American memory is short, and I believe that people will go back to. I mean, there were some concepts that should have been abandoned a long time ago anyway, and they've been culled out over the last 10 years. But I think people will go back. I mean, go back to restaurants. They'll go back to getting those done. I mean, we're a daily needs oriented company. We try to focus on things that you can't do over the internet now. Yes, people are trying a lot harder to figure out ways to do these things over the internet that we said they couldn't. But I think it's going to be a low amount of turnover, and it's going to it's just going to be a little bit of a fast forward on the evolution of shopping centers, kind of like Lance was saying. It's going to change the complexion of them some, but it's going to be exciting, and it'll be just continue to make landlords be more mindful and insightful about what they can do to bring people in to have these experiences. And because people don't want to be in their houses, they will be out, interacting with each other and working together. So I feel really good about the way what we're poised for in the future. Again, I just think the memory is short.
What do you, on that point, I just have a question about grocery in general, and I've been a naysayer in that space for a while, not because I think it's a bad investment. I've spent most of my career working on grocery anchor product, but I mean, it's going to be a huge flight to the grocery center space and retail, and I think it's going to be unwarranted, because I do think you're going to see a lot more disruption in that space that's necessary. And I think some of the buyers of that product will have a nice run here for the short term, but that's another that's getting disrupted a lot more by the online shopping than the other ones. And the power players, if you will, have kind of have already had to adapt and make their strategic advantages, making their stores more experiential. And Jeremy, you talked about this earlier, but what are the best sellers out there? Because who's going to come out on the back of this having the best practices and the best marketing program showing that they have the cleanest stores, they're well staffed, you know what I mean? So I'm just kind of curious what y'all's thoughts are, because I think that grocery space is going to be impacted significantly carts and the new concepts of Peapod and what have you. But do y'all have an opinion on the grocery space, or do y'all see this stable?
Well, I think there's been a real, it's been survival of the fittest for the last several years, in the grocery space. And, as you've seen, the cream has kind of risen to the top with, some of these more cash heavy and well-capitalized grocers being able to take advantage of shifts in the market. And I do agree with you. There's going to be some unwarranted or some irrational exuberance towards grocery, here, just based on what we're seeing in the short term. Our company's spent the last several years kind of because we saw, I said earlier that we focus on our shopping centers to be tenanted with services that you can't do over the internet. We still feel like, grocery shopping is something that you can do over the internet. I see my family do it every day. So yeah, I'm with you. I think there will be a nice little ride here for groceries for the short term, but I think in the long term, it's going to be there's going to be the have and the have-nots in the space for sure.
Yeah. Jeremy, I know a lot of your centers I know are in, or several of your centers are in the smaller markets. Do you think those small markets will be impacted to the degree that the major markets have been impacted because of all this? And do you think the recovery will be faster?
I don't know that it's going to, I do think they're going to be impacted. I don't think necessarily any more or less than what's going on in the urban center in Atlanta and in general, just because everybody's kind of dealing with the same thing of a kind of a total lockdown right now. I agree completely with what Christian said. Is we as Americans have extremely short memories, which is a good thing. And I think the minute that we're allowed to get back to normal, whatever that is considered, I think everyone's going to be rushing out to go get their hair cut and their nails done and go eat out at a restaurant because no one's been out and socialized in a while. So I think you're going to have a nice pop. And even in those smaller markets where people have not gone out in a while, I think these small businesses are going to get an initial pretty good jump in sales and stuff because people are they're bored at home at the end of the day. My worry the only worry I have from that standpoint is the people lost income. Do they have jump back into being able to spend? And how long does it take for them to gain that income back and jobs being rehired and so forth to be able to go spend that kind of money to go nails done and their haircut and eat out at a restaurant?
Yeah, I guess that's the big unknown is when we do come out of this, what jobs are left, and will people have the money to go out and do the things that they used to do and do the things that they want to do. Well, let me ask one more question here on for a group like us, that's an investment, focuses mostly on the investment sales side of things. Obviously, that's been severely impacted with everything that's been going on. What do you think? What do you think a company like us can be doing now and doing for the remainder of 2020 to help our clients out and to rebound when we do come out of this thing? Lance, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I kind of alluded to it earlier, but I think communicating to all the landlords with whom you have relationships today that these are they're opportunities created by this pandemic. So proactively cleaning up those leases prior to taking the assets to the market is going to provide significant value that's probably not going to be reflected in the NOI, but rather in some shadow opportunities with less co-tenancy, smaller no-build areas, and flexibility for the asset. I've kind of already alluded to that. And so you're not going to see that from straight NOI perspective, but there's going to be a lot of players out there that are private and they're not pure play retail like a Brixmor or Kimco or Regency for that matter. So those landlords don't really have the flexibility to perform for the highest and best use for a site if it's multifamily or if it's half shopping center, or if it's stripping down some things and put some out parcels in there to densify the assets. And I just think, communicating with your existing relationships to make sure they're cleaning up these leases at this opportunity, because it's going to be a competitive environment out there. There won't be many buyers, and the cleaner those leases are, the more easily that your center will transact. Not when people start looking under the hood and they see that it's got clean opportunity ahead of it. I think that's a huge value, and that's something we're going to try to do as we look to dispose of the assets that we have.
That's good points. Good points. How about you, Christian? What you think?
Well, I think, for you guys and this is kind of I'm looking at this as the way it translates to us as well, is I feel like we've all been busy. We've had our nose to the grindstone for so long and maybe not looking at the big picture and having as many conversations as we'd like to and staying as engaged with our contacts as we'd like to. I think this is a really good opportunity for guys like you and really guys like all of us to talk a lot more, to find the stories. Where is the figure out the deals are going to come from, what's more unique out there in the market about each situation, and how that can be translated into a deal or a transaction. I think, if I don't know what your ratio is, when you're talking to clients pitching business about, the pitch to getting to a sale ratio. But I think that ratio is going to go down. It doesn't mean the deals are going to go down. I just think you got to talk more. You got to find out what are the real opportunities, what are the real motivations for trading right now. And, cutting to the chase and, it's not a good time to just go out and audition deals and spend time deciding whether or not you got a buyer a seller that may want to see if he can achieve pricing on this asset. I think this is the time to talk about who's got real needs and identify who's got real needs that they need to work out right now. We're a very strong cash position. It doesn't mean if you talk through every deal in my portfolio, I might not say, yeah, even though this is an awkward time, it may be time to talk about selling this. It's just got to talk more. You got to listen, take it for granted. Now, that doesn't really necessarily apply for the next 60 or 90 days. I think that's more of a 120-day, 180-day strategy. But I think the opportunities are going to be there. You're just going to have to look for them harder.
Yeah.
And again, spend time doing things that we haven't been able to do because we've been too busy to do them.
Right. About you, Jeremy?
Well, first, I think what you guys and your group has been doing for the last couple of weeks, I commend you, and I appreciate you letting us all be part of it. But I know you put on a couple of these. You had a large call, and I think kind of jumping off on what the other guys had said too, just that constant communication with everybody. I really, what Christian said kind of resonated a lot. Of we're all been so busy and just guns blazing that taking that step back and kind of looking at, I know we're looking, taking time to look at our portfolio kind of as a whole and where do we want to go from here? And it's not just, which we always constantly talk about, but taking that deep breath, because knowing that we're kind of in, I don't want to say in a slow period, but we're just kind of in this stale period right now, and having those communications and talking with owners themselves and saying, what's your overall concepts kind of moving forward? Where your portfolio sit today? Where do you want it to be? And how can we help you get that way, whether it's acquisitions, dispositions, and so forth. So, but again, I first and foremost, I appreciate you guys putting these together, because I think this has been very eye-opening for me to learn and listen from all the counterparts and people that I talk to on a daily basis, because this is a very unprecedented time for all of us, and I think we're all learning as we go along with this.
Yeah, definitely. We're all we're definitely there's no playbook for this for our industry and for for the tenants that we work with, the lenders that we work with. I mean, nobody's business is set up to go through this scale of an event, but I think we're all confident that this will end. We will bounce back, and we'll all be strong when we do. Well, appreciate y'all joining us. One end things on kind of a lighter note. One thing, hopefully we're back to normal in the fall. And for those that don't know, we host, the Palomar Group hosts a golf tournament every year in the fall. It's usually a pretty good time with a bunch of our clients. So where any votes on where you think we should have it this year, guys?
I think Augusta sounds great.
We better be back to normal in the fall so we can still have that. So what were you saying, Lance?
I think Augusta sounds great. I'd like to see y'all's home turf.
Yeah.
This is being recorded, Steve?
Yes, it is, Jeremy.
Because I was going to say somewhere away from my wife and kids would be a nice couple of days.
Yeah, maybe we can do it in Augusta this fall. Maybe they'll have another tournament here in Augusta this fall, and we can maybe get in maybe they change it up, play the Masters in the fall. Maybe they'll do a little pro-am as well.
Hey, I've got a vote.
What's that?
I've got a vote.
Yeah.
Not Jacksonville.
Fair, Christian, fair. Hope your shoulder's all right. But guys, look, I really appreciate y'all. Really appreciate y'all joining me for this, and appreciate all your thoughts. And I'm sure we'll all stay in touch over the next few weeks and months. And we're all like I said at the beginning, we're all in this together. And I think it's and like Jeremy says, it's a great time for us to communicate with each other more and help each other out. So hopefully we can continue to do that and get through this and come out on the other side, because like I said, we all four of us do have a little bit of runway left in our careers, so we better figure it out. But thank you guys, really appreciate your time, and look forward to talking with y'all soon.
Thank you, and y'all stay healthy.
Take care,
guys. Bye.